I'm Hugh Stewart. This is News for Scotland on the Scotland Channel. The Scottish Government has been urged to take the lead in investigating US President Donald Trump's Scottish businesses. The New York-based global activism organisation Avaaz published a report in 2019 which raised questions about the $60 million Trump paid for Turnberry, amid further questions over the purchase of land for the US President's other golf courses in Scotland, like the Trump International Golf Links in Aberdeenshire. The group has since continued to push for the Scottish Government to grant an unexplained wealth order. That's a mechanism that allows investigations into politically exposed persons like Trump who are suspected of involvement in serious crime. The call comes after New York State Supreme Court found Trump and his company guilty of civil fraud in February last year, finding him guilty of falsely inflating the value of his assets, including his golf course in Aberdeen. Trump has appealed the court's decision. The president was also subsequently convicted by a New York jury on 34 counts of falsifying business records. Scottish Greens co-leader Patrick Harvie has also called for an investigation into the US President's business affairs in Scotland. Nick Flynn, legal director of Avaaz, said that he was disappointed and surprised that the Scottish Government have avoided the issue for the best part of 6 years, and said they should still take the lead on investigating Donald Trump's finances by seeking an unexplained wealth order. Around 5,000 people took part in last Saturday's Independence Rally in Glasgow, organised by All Under One banner. The rally left Kelvin Grove Park, winding its way through some of the city's busiest streets, and ended with an event at Glasgow Green, which heard from speakers including Alba's Kenny McCaskill and the SNP's Rona Mackay. In his speech, McCaskill described the recent closure of Grangemouth as scandalous. He added there won't be a second referendum. The British government have ruled it out. But that doesn't mean we do nothing, he said. He urged First Minister John Swinney to host an independence summit of all pro-independence parties to put country before party, as he put it.
The Supreme Court have ruled out the opportunity for us to use it. That doesn't mean we do nothing. What it does mean is we use the strategy that Alec bequeathed us and we take our destiny into our own hands. No more pretty please can we have a second referendum. No more I'll get down on my knees if I get a mandate and I'll ask for a referendum. We are not going to use the referendum. The Supreme Court made it quite clear, as my good friend Angus Brendan McNeill has pointed out, that whilst the Scottish people cannot decide to have their own referendum, they can use a democratic event. The first upcoming democratic event is the 2026 Holyrood elections. That has to be a plebiscite election. That has to be why Scotland uses it to make its declaration of independence and get the mandate ourselves. That's why I've written to John Swinney and the other leaders of independence parties. No more waiting, taking our time down the dead end of a referendum. Put it in your manifesto that you'll view this as a referendum of independence, and if we get a majority, it's a mandate for negotiations, not for continued pleadings. That's what we've got to do.
Strathkelvin and Bearsden MSP Rona Mackay said that the independence movement must remain united if it's to fight the growth of the far right's divisive and bitter tactics, as she put it. Reform won 677 council seats in England during the recent local election and won a parliamentary by-election. Mackay added, "We want independence, we've wanted it for decades, and we really have to stand together now because we need it more than ever."
Hello, I'm Eva Comrie. I'm a former member of the SNP. I also used to be an SNP councillor. I was a founder member of the Alba Party and was their Equalities convener for a couple of years. I'm now not a member of any political party because I'm fully convinced that the majority of the population of Scotland are scunnered and sick to the back teeth with party politicians who promise the world and fail to deliver, and I include within that the SNP. What I'm hoping for in the context of Independence for Independence is that we can continue to be within the Yes movement a grassroots campaign of ordinary people, the general public who support the notion of Scotland united. because the greatest thing to put fear into the hearts of the politicians at Westminster is when the people of the independence movement of Scotland are united as one. Scotland united will never be defeated, and what Scotland united requires is for all party politicians who support independence and all members of the public who support independence to come together and to create a convention or a summit whereby we talk about the route map to independence and we create the nuts and bolts that will build the pathway to self-determination being regained for Scotland. Think how glorious it will be when we see the saltire raised at the United Nations between the flags of Saudi Arabia and Senegal. And although Independence Day will be one of the greatest days of my life, it's the beginning of the beginning, because the real work starts on day 2, when we begin to rebuild our country and create the Scotland that we know we will be.
I'm Scottish, not British, and why should any country be governed by another? It doesn't make logical sense to me.
How do you think the independence campaign can build with the election in a year's time?
I honestly don't think politics is the answer. Political parties are the answer. I think it's people, and that people have to make a stand en masse and demand their country free. No, ask for it nicely.
So my name's David Herrier. I'm here today with my colleague Lindsay. We've got the Project Arbroath stand, and what we've done is we've created a wee booklet called How We Take Back Our Independence. And it basically addresses how we got into the Union in the first place. Talks about Scotland's history, our 1,000-year independence, how it was stolen from us by the English in 1707, and how we can get that back.
Now, what do you think of events south of the border if Nigel Farage looks like becoming Prime Minister of the UK?
Yeah. Well, I don't really care about Nigel Farage. I mean, you could take away Nigel Farage and put in Boris Johnson. What happened? Everyone was saying the same thing. I don't care what happens in England, because England has no bearing on how Scotland takes its independence. And it's that word take. We need to take our independence. We do not ask Westminster for another Section 30 referendum. Is that clear? Let's stop doing that. Nobody gets their independence. Everyone needs to take it, and that's what Project Arbroath is about.
2 momentous announcements are to be made at next weekend's Scottish Sovereignty Research Group conference in Dunfermline. Sarah Salliers of Salvo, that's a campaign arm of Liberation Scotland, said that one of the announcements in particular has been compared to the iceberg now waiting for the HMS Titanic of the British state. Advance notice of Liberation Scotland's challenge to the UK was presented to the UN General Secretary in March of this year on behalf of a group of the Geneva-based Justice for All International human rights organisation. Sharaf Azizov, the founder and executive director of Justice for All International, will be present at the event in Dunfermline next Saturday and will be one of the speakers. He'll be joined by leading Scottish politicians, experts, academics and campaigners. By blocking the legitimate right of Scots to exercise their rights as sovereign people, the UK is denying them their basic rights, and that's the basis of the challenge. The theme of this year's conference at Dunfermline's Carnegie Conference Centre is "What are the next steps?" A number of important events have taken place since the last conference, say the organisers. Last year's snap election saw over 30 of the SNP's MPs lose their seats. Labour is now running the UK and wasted no time in introducing cuts. A political titan, Alex Salmond, passed away, but he leaves a legacy. Scotland's constitutional future remains unresolved. However, the announcements, which have been kept under wraps by the organisers, will be momentous, according to Salvo, and will be made on the afternoon of Saturday, May the 17th. The fact that Liberation Scotland has submitted an advance notice which details the case for Scotland to be listed for decolonisation is certainly a new development, and Saturday afternoon's session will deal specifically with that topic. Tickets are still available from SSRG on our website, that's ssrg-conference.com. With a year to go till the Holyrood elections, John Swinney this week outlined the Scottish Government's plans for the next 5 years. There are 4 key policy goals: 1, eradicating child poverty; 2, growing the economy; thirdly, tackling the climate emergency; And fourthly, developing high quality and sustainable public services. On poverty, the Scottish Government says that 40,000 children will be kept out of relative poverty by 25-26 through the unique Scottish Child Payment, and that over 24,000 homes for social rent have been delivered up to 2024. On the economy, the Scottish Government points out economic growth has been higher in Scotland than the rest of the UK since 2007, and that proportionately more workers here get the real living wage. On the green agenda, Scotland has one of the world's biggest offshore wind energy sectors and has tripled the number of green jobs since 2021. The Government will bring to Parliament a bill to encourage green heating technology for our homes and premises, promising that the direction of travel will be clear and affordable. On public services, the Government says they have delivered more than 105,000 extra NHS appointments or procedures through an additional 30 million invested between April 24 and March of this year, and that's 40,000 more than originally promised. They also point to good results in Scotland's schools, with a record number of pupils, that's over 640,000, currently taught in schools that are in good or satisfactory condition. There's also a record proportion of pupils achieving the expected level in literacy and numeracy across primary and secondary schools, that's up to year 23-24. Looking ahead, the Swinney Government expects economic growth to come from the new scientific and digital sectors. The full programme for government on the Scottish Government's website says they will continue to nurture and expand sectors which boost Scotland's profile as a modern, high-growth country, in particular tech and innovation, where our international reputation is growing. Entrepreneurs sell Scotland's expertise on an international stage, attract significant inward investment, and will be critical to our future prosperity. We will support innovators, increase start-up creation, development business clusters in innovative market sectors, and build on Scotland's expertise in critical technologies. New measures include the First Minister's Start-up Challenge. That's an initiative to support young people from disadvantaged or underrepresented backgrounds to start and scale up innovative business ideas. They get mentorship and grant funding. Can Scotland switch to a hydrogen-based economy? Green hydrogen can be produced by the abundant wind electricity that we have, and the Scottish Government plan for Scotland to become a leading producer and exporter of hydrogen for the UK and into Europe, with the first hydrogen from Scotland to mainland Europe expected to be delivered in the next few years. The opportunity for Scotland within the developing global hydrogen market is significant. 11 projects designed to accelerate Scotland's hydrogen economy are set to benefit from a share of the £3.4 million funding package. The Scottish Government funding will help develop green hydrogen production, improve the hydrogen supply chain, and enhance hydrogen transport and storage infrastructure. Opening a parliamentary debate on Scotland's hydrogen future, Acting Net Zero Cabinet Secretary Gillian Martin said hydrogen stands at a critical pillar on Scotland's route to net zero by 2045, but also alongside the development of our offshore wind capacity as one of Scotland's greatest industrial opportunities since the discovery of North Sea gas and oil. A just transition remains at the heart of our approach, and we are determined that no community will be left behind as we move away from burning fossil fuels towards a low-carbon energy system. She says we are working to build a hydrogen economy in which the benefits of our energy transition are shared, and in which harnesses the full potential of our skilled people, our world-class industries and our natural resources. In September 24, the Scottish Government invited projects to apply for a match-funded grant award of up to 50% with a maximum of £2 million each. Shortlisting saw 18 projects invited to submit a full application to the delivery partner, who is Scottish Enterprise, with ultimately 9 projects proving successful. Communities across the North East and Moray will benefit from over £8 million of funding to create jobs in low-carbon industries and enhance green and net zero skills. The Scottish Government's Just Transition Fund, that's the JTF, helps to finance industry and community projects working towards the transition to net zero by creating green jobs, supporting innovation and securing the highly skilled workforce of the future. The JTF will reopen for applications for the first time since 2022, and the Scottish Government is urging organisations, businesses and communities to apply for funding to support new projects. Since 2022, a total of $75 million has been invested through the fund, supporting projects including a digital innovations lab, which provides immersive technology to help the construction sector decarbonise. There's the Travelling Skills Hub, which provides training, STEM engagement and job upskilling sessions to communities across the North East. Then there's identifying training needs based on work done to identify net zero training opportunities and areas of future demand. Also, there's the development of the Energy Skills Passport. That's a free tool for offshore oil and gas workers to identify training and qualification routes into roles in the offshore wind sector. Acting Net Zero Secretary Gillian Martin announced the JTF will reopen for applications during her site visit to the offshore wind assembly company Saren's PSG. That organisation got $150,000 through a supply chain pathway and Energy Transition Challenge Fund delivered by ETZ Limited to upgrade their site to train the next generation of offshore wind technicians and engineers. Ms Martin said, Scotland's innovative energy expertise and vast energy resources not only benefit the planet, but deliver new economic opportunities and new jobs for households and communities across the country. She said, it's vital as we move towards net zero that workers, communities and businesses are able to capture the opportunities that the transition brings. She says, I've seen firsthand today the positive impact that the Just Transition Fund is having for people in the North East. She went on from enabling pioneering research that's accelerating the energy transition to providing skills interventions which directly support the transferability of the existing workforce. The Just Transition Fund is helping to safeguard jobs and livelihoods in the region for future generations. Maggie McGinley, Chief Executive of ETZ Limited, said, the supply chain is the very lifeblood of our energy sector, and it's vital that we provide companies with the support required to capitalise on the vast opportunities that the energy transition provides. The Challenge Fund was established to accelerate the development of new industry-related facilities, new equipment and existing infrastructure upgrades, including digital infrastructure and the drive to innovate and to market entry into low carbon and green energy opportunities. That winds up our stories for this week. Join us again on the Scotland Channel every Friday night from 7 p.m. Don't forget, once released, you can view all our shows anytime on the Scotland Channel. Support us by linking, sharing and subscribing to our YouTube page, thescotlandchannel.tv. Thanks for watching.